Okay, I'm going to tell you this right now. I might do this short because I've been starting to cough again. I still have that problem where I still tend to cough. So, next to trying to make this short, I might forget something or not mention it because I know it's going to take too long. So, if you want to know about something I didn't mention, either because I forgot or because I decided not to say anything because I may have a tendency to cough, leave a comment below and ask me, and I'll try to type out what I think about it. But before we get started, I'm going to mention this right now. Did we get a good Bound for Glory? Yes, we got a very good Bound for Glory. But did we get a great Bound for Glory? No. I'm sorry. I know everyone's going to say, are you crazy? No. I'm telling you the truth. We got a very good Bound for Glory, but we didn't get a great Bound for Glory, no matter how you cut it. And I'll explain it at the end if I don't forget or start coughing. But let's begin with the Hall of Fame. Now, I'm going to be honest here. I never heard about Bob Ryder. I never did hear about him. Of course, I heard Jeff Jarrett and his dad and other people who worked in TNA at the time, but I never heard about Bob Ryder. I'm not going to lie about that. And there's nothing shameful about it. I only started watching TNA back in 2010, and only when I started getting into doing pro wrestling reviews. I don't know everything. So I didn't know about Bob Ryder. And knowing that he went from ECW, WCW, then TNA. Guy's been around. Sadly, he's passed away. But the person they did get for the induction ceremony who's known one of the best was Eric Young. Basically, Bob Ryder had no more family, but him and Eric got such a closeness, he considered him family and let him be a part of his own. So Bob Ryder became part of the Young family, which was a nice thing to hear. Hearing that he affected so many people is a good thing. That he helped to make sure when TNA was functioning correctly before Dixie Carter came in, and when Anthem put it to Impact Wrestling, and then here, there were points when TNA was working right, and he was a part of that. So I will be glad to hear that. And it was nice to see. Now, Rhino, it was Tommy Dreamer who inducted him. And let's make this clear. This is Rhino. The guy has been around forever. The guy has been loved forever. The guy has been short-armed forever. And that's not meant to be insulting. It's just, if you've never seen Rhino, and that's for the younger generation who's not really looked at TNA, and now all of a sudden they have been watching, they've been watching TNA, and they see this guy around named Rhino. He's been from one of the older promotions, and he looks a little strange. There are going to be people who are going to say that. And that's just how he is. But that takes nothing away from how great of a wrestler he was, how good of a character he's been, especially with Heath Slater that he did mention, and what he helped in ECW, WCW, ECW, WWE, the ECW of WWE, and then TNA. He's done his contribution, and he deserves what he has. And I did like his talk was really nice. Excuse me. I think I liked it more in Eric Young due to the fact I'm more familiar with Rhino. I'm sorry. I'm not saying anything about Bob Ryder, but I am being told what Bob Ryder was like by someone who knew very well. Who I do know, Eric Young. But it's not Bob Ryder. I just don't know who Bob is. But it doesn't mean I don't care that Bob really helped TNA when it needed it. And same with Rhino. Rhino really helped define a lot of TNA in the mid-2000s. Going into 2010. He did. When he was there, went away, and then came back again. So I was actually happy to hear him showing respect to a lot of people. To Tommy Dreamer. To Heath Slater, that he was there for him when his own brother was dying of cancer, that he was giving his brother some well-needed joy whenever he was talking to him and his brother Rhino. That was how it felt to me personally. And I'm sure also to Tommy Dreamer, that meant a lot to him because his own mother was very sick and dying. And he easily would identify with Rhino. For me, it really meant a lot to hear something like that. And to see that he does have his faith. He doesn't really push it. But he wanted people to know how he's religious, but also about he's the type of person that wants to leave something better than what he gained it. In other words, he's in this world. He wants to leave the world better than he's leaving it. That was nice. And hearing that he loved his daughter was very good and that she understood him. So the Hall of Fame was nice. I didn't have a problem with it. Now, what did we get in Detroit, Michigan? What did we get from the Wayne State University? The first match, gauntlet match, call your shot. We didn't get any real big surprises here when it came to the call your shot gauntlet. We just didn't. Yeah, Rohit Raju showed up. We did get, pretty much Rohit Raju was the only real surprise we got. Really. Honestly. All the other people are already on the roster. So Rohit was the only surprise we got, which was not the greatest. And I'm not taking anything from Rohit Raju. I always liked him. But you would hope they would add someone special into this. But we didn't really get it. We got all the regular people. We got Laredo Kid. We got Trent Seven. We got Jake something. We got Zachary Wentz. We got Kaz. We got Kevin Navarro. We got Rhino himself. He made it to the end. We got AJ Francis, who did win the Call Your Shot Gauntlet's 20th place. So all the regular people were there. So there was no one really surprising. The very first person that got eliminated was the Laredo Kid. Now, we did get Tasha Steelz coming out. And we did get Ying, what was her first name? I can't remember Zaya Lee's new first name, but it's Ying Lee. I can't remember her first part of her name, but Ying Lee was there, beat the crap out of her, beat the crap out of a couple other people, and then she got eliminated. Both the women were out. But, well, technically, I have to at least say, when you see, I'm like, what do we really get when you see a Tasha Steelz twerking? Really? She's twerking in front of the guy that she thinks she stands a chance against. And she decides to twerk in front of him. And I'm like, okay, fine. But in the end, we had Kaz and we had Rhino at the end. Kaz does a low blow. He is now the Call Your Shot Cup champion. Well, technically not a champion, but he's got the Call Your Shot Cup. Anytime during the year, he can get a shot. Fine. But let's be honest here. It would have been better if they had someone special. The Benda Gunjer was there. We didn't even get... I wouldn't have been upset if I saw the former Jinder Mahal. Someone that we normally don't see. Someone that would have been a nice surprise in this Call Your Shot Gauntlet. We didn't get it. And I'm just saying it because I've already done the first night of Force of Excellence for Maple Leaf Pro. I'm going to see if I can do it tomorrow. If not, I'll do it Monday. I want to try and do it tomorrow, but by the time I edit this and put images in, I'm going to be pretty tired. So I'm going to see if I can do it today. This coming. If not, you're going to have to wait until Monday for Maple Leaf Pro. But I really do believe there could have been someone better. Next. X Division. Von Kingo versus Speedball Mike Bailey. Now, Von Kingo got hurt. So he never got a chance to really do the match with Speedball Mike Bailey. So this was a nice match that we finally got. Now, it was a very good match for the X Division. No problem. Now, I will tell you this. That if this had been one of the 3 main events, it actually would have worked. Because it was a very good match. But I was not surprised that Von Kingo lost. I haven't heard him joining TNA Wrestling. Now, if he had, I do believe they would have let him have the title. But it didn't happen. So this is what we got. Now, the match that I was not really feeling, due to the fact of what happened to Danny Luna, we don't even know what happened. It was something personal that she was gone. So there was very little time to really build up into that story. And particularly after the hurricane hit and they missed 1 week of recording because they would have had 3 weeks that would have been built up into Bound for Glory. They only had 2. It really didn't help much. So when it came to this match between Spitfire and... I'm telling you this, honestly. What has Rosemary gained? I'm saying this again. No one's been against me in it. But what has Rosemary gotten in this situation working with NXT? Honestly, as a fan of Rosemary, watching how she's been developed and watching how she's been booked, she hasn't had a lot of good storylines. In fact, she's really been like this majority of the time for the last 3 years. I'm sorry. If you look at how they booked her for the last 3 years, she had a few of these, but then a lot of this. So when TNA started working with NXT, you would think, well, maybe they'll give her something to do. She isn't just going to be there to job, right? 1, 2, 3 times she jobbed in singles. 1 time she lost in a tag. And the rest of the time she's been winning in tag with Wendy Chu. So she really hasn't gained anything. And then when it comes to this, I wasn't even sure that they would even win. To be honest, I didn't think TNA would be allowed or even want to give the title to NXT to show it. So I'm like, what are we getting here? Are we going to really see TNA let Wendy Chu be one of the tag team champions for the knockouts? Would they actually pull the trigger? But then after hearing what happened with Danny Luna, that some personal issue happened, I'm thinking, no, I don't think they're going to strip it from her. I don't think they're going to take the title off of her and Jody Threat. And it was a good match. I'm not against any of the women who wrestled, but I just didn't feel like they were going to do it. Now, did it feel like they could have done it? Yes. At certain parts, it looked like that Spitfire was going to lose. But guess what? It did not happen. Spitfire retained. And then when I saw how the miscommunication happened between Wendy and Rosemary, I'm going like, okay, there's about to be a betrayal. And I guess what? I was right. At the end, when Rosemary and Wendy were just being, when Wendy was getting up, Rosemary speared her ass. Done. She gave her a kiss on the head, and then they move on. So I don't know if there's going to be a storyline between the two in NXT or they done, because that could be the end of it. But if they want to stretch this a little bit more, they will have either Wendy come to TNA to mess up on Rosemary, or Rosemary will again show up on TNA maybe this week or next week and will mess with Wendy again. That's what I think will happen. That's if it's not over, because now it's Bound for Glory's finished. There's no guarantee it's going to be over. Now, excuse me, folks being in the bottom of me again. Josh Alexander with Steve Macklin. This was a match I was wondering how they were going to end this. It was a good match, but seeing that at the end of the match, Steve Macklin was zip-tied in his back, fighting from the ground with his arms tied, and the ref was trying to end the match or trying to free him, and he says, no, leave me like this, I want to fight. Made me think they really want to push Steve as a face, and they want to push him as a courageous, brave face. And what happens? Excuse me. You get Steve Macklin passing out to the ankle lock while his wrists are zip tied. that is a good way to make him look like a courageous face, a former war veteran. Now, question's going to be, can they make something out of this going into the world title scene with him? Because it looks like it may work, but it's a big question. Can they book it right? I am very curious how they're going to book Steve Macklin now. I just don't. Okay. Here's the bloody one. Digital Media and International Heavyweight Championship. Sorry. Like I said, my throat is pretty messed up. I'm still coughing on and off. I'm alright. Lungs are fine. Nostrils will still get stopped up, but it still gets me there. So, this was a good Monsters Ball match. Not the greatest I've ever seen over the years I've watched TNA. But I will tell you, it was pretty good. We got 3 doors used. We had double, nearly triple amount of thumbtacks. Majority of them were in PCO's head, and he didn't even try to pull them out. I was actually kind of nervous when I see PCO headbutting a Matt Cardona, worrying that he could pierce his own skull with those thumbtacks, because that's still dangerous. He could pierce his own cranial skull. Made me a little nervous. But he did pretty well. In the end, PCO maintained his titles. But what now? What are we really going to get from PCO? What are we really going to get from Matt Cardona now? Is it over? Are we now done with this? At least until Steph DeLanda comes back from her neck fusion. Because she had successful neck fusion, as you all know. But I don't know. Either they're going to stop it for now until Steph comes back, or they're going to continue doing something else. My feeling, I think they're going to stop it. Because now Bound for Glory is finished. They may have maybe 1 or 2 more weeks after this, but I think it may be over. But this is just me. You guys tell me below. Next, Santana versus Moose. Let me tell you like this. I'm going to say this. Santana with Ortiz, seeing that JDC was at ringside, and that he messed up the match, almost nailing Moose in the, tried to nail a Santana in the head with a chain, but then pretty much almost nails Moose with the chain. But in the end, it doesn't really matter because Santana wins. Did this really put Santana over? Because that's what this is all about. Did Moose put Santana over enough that he can feel credible? I could say yes. Honestly, I could easily say yes. He's gone through the system completely, beat everybody, and now he's beating Moose. So the question's going to be, now that he has been put over by Moose, where did they put him? In the X Division? Or did they put him in the main title picture? Because I just don't see them putting him in the main title picture yet. I do believe they could make him an X Division champion and then move on to the main title maybe next year. Because Speedball Mike Bailey did a great job with Vikingo. But they need to do something with Speedball Mike Bailey. And they need to do something with Santana. Giving Santana that title, maybe by final resolution, might actually be a good thing. Speedball won't get hurt if he loses the title again. But that will at least give Santana something. Because I do believe that he is over now. But they need to do something with him to maintain that over. Particularly that they don't have a very large roster, guys. Understand, excuse me. TNA does not have a big roster. And even though they bring people into tape, they don't really make long storylines. They just don't. With certain people they have, but they don't have enough people to maintain that. So they got to do something with Santana. I do believe giving him the X Division by final resolution, I do believe it'll be final resolution, that he could go up against Speedball Mike Bailey or whoever beats Speedball between the beginning of November until December. You never know. This is just me. All right. We're getting to the last three. Jordynne Grace versus Marsha Slamovich. Now, I want to make this very clear. I knew that these two were going to have a great match. I even said it. They were going to have a great match. The problem here is this. Jordynne Grace should have gone up against someone from WWE. I'm sorry. It should have been Natalya. Now, I'm not telling you the story between her and Marsha is bad. It's not. And I want to make this very clear. Their feud in 2022 was very good. They had great matches together. And I'm telling you the truth, this was the best match of the night. A singles match. Flat out. It is the best. It had the best story behind it. For what TNA has built over the last year and a half. Well, not year and a half, but... saying year and a half is hard. I could easily say 2 years, but I can't. I can say the last year and a half. You've seen what they've done with Marsha dealing with Killer Kelly, and then they became MK Ultra. Then MK Ultra ended because Killer Kelly had to go away, and then they started doing something with the system, and now we get the final story between Marsha and Jordynne Grace. It is good as they couldn't make it. And this is a good all around for Marsha Slamovich. It is. But I'm going to be honest here. What would have been better? Marsha going up against Jordynne, or actually taking someone that you don't normally see that is from TKO WWE and throwing them in there that had pedigree? I'm not telling that. And it would have been better if they had Bianca Belair, if she wasn't basically not with the company, a Becky Lynch, or even a Charlotte Flair. I understand that. But it would have been better if they had somebody. And the best person, Natalya. They went on X and messed around with that, and then they dropped it. And I think that was a big missed opportunity for TNA. Either TNA couldn't get her, or TNA didn't want her, or both sides couldn't agree, and they both didn't want to do it. But in the end, I truly believe Natalya would have been the best person to see at Bound for Glory, and that would have given her such great... How can I say this? You can say a lot about Natalya Neidhart. Sorry. But I truly believe that she's one of the rare individuals that have been from WWE that deserved this. She's been there a long time. And I truly believe she'd earned this gift of going to a pay-per-view in another company. Because she's not doing anything on the main roster. I truly believe that this would have been a nice gift for her. It was a great match. I'm not going to tell you it wasn't. It was. I loved the match. Like I said, it's the best match of the night. And in the end, Marsha finally did win and gave a big hug to a Jordynne Grace. Great. It was wonderful. It was a great moment. But I'm sorry. Don't care what you guys say. You're going to say you're wrong. This was the best moment of the entire show, and it was. But if you had someone from TKO WWE coming there, had 2 or 3 months to build it up, it would have been better. I'm sorry. I'm telling the truth. I'm sorry. Not because the story would have been greater or the match would have been greater. It's just that we would have had a real payoff from this collaboration, which we didn't. Moving on. 2 more left. Josh. Excuse me. Say Josh. Sorry. Joe Henry versus Nick Nimitz. You can see when I'm about to cough, I lose concentration. Joe Henry, Nick Nimitz, and Kaz, who is the special guest referee. I called it. Didn't I call it? You guys know I called it. Who showed up at the very end of that match? John Layfield. What happened? John Layfield interfered in that match. He laid out Kaz, who tried once to use his Call Your Shot Gauntlet match cup. And it was Joe Henry who stopped it. He nailed Kaz. He nailed Ryan Nimitz. Leaves. And guess who wins? It is a Nick Nimitz. Now, I want to tell you what I thought might happen. This is what I thought would happen. I thought that John Layfield would show up, but what would have happened is that Joe Henry would have won. Then John Layfield had interfered in some situation after the match or done something during the match. Of course, I thought that Joe would still win, but then something would happen with John Layfield showing up, and then Kaz cashing in, and then Kaz would have won the title. And Joe would have been screwed. And Nick would have been screwed. But that's what I thought would have happened. But we got this. Mind you, I want to make this clear. Who was the most loudest cheered there, flat out, was Joe Henry. Hell, they were saying, fuck Ohio. That's how bad it was. They hated him so much. They were saying, next to Walking Wiener for Josh Alexander, that's one of the other things I want to mention. This, it was very loud in the Wayne State Arena. It was loud for Joe Henry. But I'm not surprised that John Layfield was going to show up. I knew he was going to show up, but I thought he would interfere in the match. But Joe would win, but then Kaz would try and cash in, and then Kaz would win over him, and then we would get a double whammy. That's what I thought, but we didn't get that. So what now? Nick's brother gets nailed. Kaz gets nailed. Joe gets screwed. So are we going to see a Nick Nimitz face turn to a heel? Are we going to see John Layfield show up more? Maybe by final resolution, and we get to see him do something there? I don't know. I have no idea we're going to go here. But it was not a bad match. It was a good match. And it had an ending that a lot of people probably would have thought, no, they wouldn't do that to Joe. But they did. Now, final match. Full Metal Mayhem. ABC versus the System versus the Hardys. I'm going to tell you now. I think I said it. That I believe the Hardys were going to win. And they did win. Did we see a lot craziness in this match? Yeah, we did. Was it the greatest Full Metal Mayhem match? No. I've seen better, but it was still a good match. Seeing all the art that came from Jeff, he did himself. He had to do that over months. But weeks maybe. Maybe not a month, but a week. He painted everything. He painted chairs. He painted the tables. He painted the not ring skirt, but the mat itself was all nice. The match was good. I enjoyed seeing a lot of what was going on in this show. Of this Full Metal Mayhem match. But I wasn't surprised that the Hardys were going to win. I had a feeling that, guys, I felt that this might be the last run. And I don't know how long they're going to hold the titles. I don't know how long they're going to stay in TNA. They may stay for a whole year. They may stay longer. Or maybe by the middle of next year they're done with TNA. And maybe either they go back to AEW, go to WWE, or they just finish wrestling. But I had a feeling they were going to win. And they did. So this is what we got. We got the Hardys winning. But let's put this in perspective. Did we get a great show here from Bound for Glory? No. Did we get a very good show from Bound for Glory? Yes. It was a very good Bound for Glory. But it wasn't a great Bound for Glory. I'm sorry. They needed more. They needed more people there. Look, we got only Wendy Chu and we got John Layfield. And I'm sure there's going to be people say, dude, we didn't need TKO WWE. This is great. Really? I'm being honest here. As someone who loves TNA, who is one of the few people who has been reviewing it since 2010 consistently. Very rarely do I miss any episodes. Either I've been sick or I had no internet. Or they just didn't have anything. But I'm one of the rare few that has been consistently, constantly, other than the really big YouTubers that will talk about it, has been doing it. And I'm telling you right now, this was a very good Bound for Glory, but it was not a great one. That doesn't take anything from it, but it's just the truth. And I hope you enjoy this. Peace.